players will be waiting for their names to be called. All right, welcome into NFL Total Access. We are presented by Jeep. My name is MJ Acosta-Ruiz. We have got a jam-packed hour ahead.
Yes.
Cynthia Freeland and Willie McGinnis in the house with me tonight. Hello, guys.
What's up?
Hi, great to see you.
Oh, my God, so good to have you guys here.
I'm ready to go.
Draft Eve. We have Mark Ross, James Jones. They will be joining us in just a little bit. So will Dak Prescott. But first, it's all eyes on Cleveland. Jets principal owner and chairman Woody Johnson, he posted the cards that the team will turn in tomorrow night. The only difference is, of course, tomorrow there will be names on them. Now let's send it to our draft desk. Rich Eisen, take it away.
Welcome to Cleveland, Ohio. We could not be more excited to be here for the 2021 NFL Draft kicking off on NFL Network tomorrow night. I am your humble host, Rich Eisen, pleased to be joined by the coach of Stanford football, David Shaw, and our friend from right here on NFL Network and calling some great action on CBS Sports with Ian Eagle. Good to see you, Charles Davis, and the man who will be on the clock for us. Pick one through Mr. Irrelevant, Daniel Jeremiah. So, DJ, starting with you, you're looking forward to what in this draft?
Rich, quarterbacks are always going to drive the draft, and this year we have a chance to see something we've never seen before. That's 5 quarterbacks go in the top 10. We know they're going to go quarterback at the top. We do not know who the San Francisco 49ers are going to take at 3. That is going to be exciting to see what they do. And then you look at what could happen with potentially some teams trading up for quarterbacks. Quarterbacks bring the drama. We're going to have some drama.
Yeah, no question about that. Really excited about the way this thing's going to start with all those quarterbacks. But then what happens after number 3 really is going to set the stage for everybody else. Not just what position they go in, but where they go should be fascinating.
And then, of course, the Atlanta Falcons at 4. What a decision they have to make. Do they trade out? Do they Kyle Pitts, who our colleague Bucky Brooks says is a gold jacket talent? What are you looking forward to seeing the most?
Well, I think once we get past 4 with Atlanta, Rich, I think when we get to 5 with Cincinnati, do they start the drama of the offensive tackle saga? Do they take Penei Sewell, or do they take a playmaker and maybe the tackles start to move a little bit? We might get a few of those tackles, I think, in this draft that you may not hear their names very much prior to. They could be in the first round, and guys you've heard about may go in the second round. But in any event, guys, we're going to get an offensive tackle run by the second round.
And we've got so many young quarterbacks in the league, CD, and teams are faced with the decision. Do we get one of those tackles, or do we get a weapon and maybe circle back for a tackle later on in the draft? So those are going to be some of the key decisions.
Coach Shaw, what about you after hearing all of this unpacked right now?
Well, I'm a former receiver, so I love talking about receivers. In this receiver class, we've got 3 guys at the top, all exciting. Jamar Chase, big, fast, physical. Jalen Waddle, fast and explosive, and a great punt returner. And then the thin man, as I call him, Devontae Smith. Everybody's talking about how skinny he is, but this guy can break you down. There's a 5-yard contact rule. This guy's going to be special after 5 yards. But beyond that, there's 7 more guys that you can make a case that could fall into that first round. So 8 or 9 guys really have a chance to make impact this year as rookies in the NFL.
Yeah, and Coach, you know, not only is he a special guy, he's got a special nickname, the Slim Reaper. So when you talk about Devontae Smith, the other part of all these receivers as we go all the way through the draft, it's not just the guys that run downfield and catch the football. They also have extra talents and duties as well. They'll move them back in the backfield. They'll operate out of the slot. We've seen how Deebo Samuel has changed a lot of the things we're seeing. We'll continue to see that.
And I'm always intrigued by the teams that have those multiple picks, right? Your Jets, Rich, this is a big draft for the New York Jets. They've got to get it right. The Dolphins as well. The Jacksonville Jaguars with Urban Meyer now in the National Football League. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, and the Jaguars Twitter account putting us on the clock to warn us not to go to commercial break or dare us to do that during the first selection of the draft like we apparently always do. That will not happen. I can guarantee that, like Joe Namath. So we could not be more excited for the draft that kicks off right here from Cleveland, Ohio, all 7 rounds, 2 nights, 3 full days. Can't wait for it. We'll see you on Thursday.
All right, Rich, thank you. And, of course, the Jaguars lead us off with that first overall selection. The Jets and the 49ers behind them at 2 and 3. Falcons, Bengals, Dolphins at 6. Lions, Panthers, Broncos, and the Cowboys round out the top 10. All right, let's get to the fellas here. Super Bowl champs with us tonight. James Jones, Mark Ross here with me now. Listen, the fun really begins for me at 3 and 4, right? The Falcons, their GM, Terry Fontenot, he said he knows who they take at 4, but of course it all depends on what the Niners do at 3 right before them. Mark, you know this feeling very, very well, this whole situation. How do you see the chips falling here?
Well, I'm glad Terry Fontenot said they know who they're taking, unlike San Fran, who said a day ago, like, we don't still know who we're taking. So Terry Fontenot and the Falcons staff have analyzed these quarterbacks and know which is the right player for them. And they have that advantage because Matt Ryan is still there, maybe has some good years left. So they don't have to force a quarterback. It has to be the right quarterback that they think can win Super Bowls. That being said, it depends on what San Fran does at number 3. If they take their guy, who maybe is Justin Fields, then I think they'll go Kyle Pitts and team him with Julio Jones to have 2 rare playmakers to help Matt Ryan. But I think if San Fran takes Matt Jones, then Justin Fields is right there for Atlanta, and they can take their guy. Atlanta native would be a perfect situation to develop and grow under Matt Ryan and still compete. So depending on what San Fran does, it'll determine what Atlanta does, and that'll set the tone for the rest of the draft as well, JJ.
Hey, I'm with you. I hear everything you're saying, but I just heard them boys up there say what Bucky Brooks said, that Kyle Pitts is a Hall of Fame talent. You do not pass up on that. That's why the GM came out and said, we know who we're taking, and this is the kid we're taking right here. If he's there, if the Niners don't take this kid, this is our guy. Like you said, plug him in there with Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Hayden Hurst. Matt Ryan still has some good years left in him. This offense right here is going to be very lethal when you plug this guy right here into your offense. There is no other pick for the Atlanta Falcons. This is the pick right here, this kid right here.
Yeah, that's if, of course, the big if the Niners don't do it. Listen, the Falcons in a very pivotal spot here, guys, in this draft. But, yeah, I think they're actually a little bit more of a mystery because they're so dependent on what happens ahead of them. All right, thank you. Let's remind everyone at home about that draft order for tomorrow night, of course, or rather the top 150 prospects that we have here for all of you. Daniel Jeremiah is 150. We got the top 10 for you here. Trevor Lawrence there at number 1. Kyle Pitts, number 2. Jamar Chase. Whole slew of a few other quarterbacks sprinkled in. It's the tackle Rashawn Slater who rounds out the top 10 for us. All right, always love a good list. DJ always bringing it down. Let's bring in NFL media insider Ian Rappaport right by the draft stage. Cynthia Freeland back with us as well. Ian, some talk about the Broncos taking a quarterback with the 9th pick. But as we heard today, they might have filled that need. What say you?
Well, the Denver Broncos did make a big move, big trade today in advance of the draft. I'm just not so sure it takes them out of the quarterback conversation. What they did, they traded for Teddy Bridgewater, the former Carolina Panthers starting quarterback. So when Carolina's been trying to unload both him and his salary for really the last several, not just days, but the last several weeks. So what's going to happen salary-wise is the Carolina Panthers are going to eat $7 million. And the Denver Broncos are going to pay $3 million. That was the guarantee that Bridgewater had on his contract. Now, of course, Carolina basically closes the book on their starter from last year. A new era there with Sam Darnold. And for the Denver Broncos, what they got is a really, really experienced backup or bridge starter, someone to push Drew Lock. But it's not like the Denver Broncos are going to say, okay, we got Bridgewater, we got Lock, we are good. I would still expect them to take a very hard look at the quarterback position, depending on who falls for them. But if they do nothing else, at least going into this season, they will be fine at QB.
They created a bunch of options for themselves. That's how I read it, right? Because if you look to see who could be in the mold of what Vic Fangio knows how to coach really well, well, Micah Parsons seems to fit that bill really, really well. And at 9, it's unlikely that the quarterback position is going to be something where they wouldn't have to move maybe up or down a bit in order to get maybe even the 4th best quarterback at best. So potentially later rounds they could take a quarterback, but the fit with Micah Parsons and his ability. I mean, we just saw Roquan Smith sign his deal. That was a Vic Fangio fit back from the Chicago days.
All right, guys, as we're talking here, quarterbacks, in a related topic, don't forget the Panthers. They're still in this quarterback conversation, even though they appear to have cleared the way for Sam Darnold. All right, Ian and Cynthia, thank you. All right, check out this video of Cam Newton hyping up Justin Fields. This is a throwback, though, when Justin was in high school. Same little face, though. Cam always knew that the Georgia high school star and 2017 Elite 11 winner was going to be a star. I love that. All right, will the Patriots be taking one of those quarterbacks? Well, Willie, what do you say we head over to Foxborough, your old stomping grounds, for some of those answers? Mike Giardi, he is at Patriot Place. What's the buzz around that 15th pick, Mike G?
Well, the Patriots have made calls about moving up into the top 10, with the idea being, is there a quarterback available? But, as you know, Bill Belichick, they've also made calls about moving back. They will have their bases covered on this. And the one thing I will tell you about the quarterback situation is, look, obviously they're not paying Cam Newton starter money, just $3.5 million guaranteed. But to me, the thing that's been very interesting is because the season ended early for them, normally they're playing into late January, a lot of times into February, they got a jump start on this process, and they have been knee-deep in the quarterbacks trying to figure out what are good fits. And you saw Josh McDaniels at Justin Fields' second pro day. He spent time with Kyle Trask in Florida, likely a second-round pick, with Kellen Mond of Texas A&M, likely a second-round pick. They've gotten to know these guys and understand, can they come in here, pick up what we're trying to do, and be a fit, whether it's immediate or most likely with the Patriots and a rookie quarterback a little bit later on. But that's been a process that's been interesting to monitor because they really haven't done it since 2014 when they picked Jimmy Garoppolo. And Jimmy Garoppolo helped sort of push Tom Brady to that second height again. After the 3 Super Bowls, he won 3 more when Garoppolo was around, Willie.
So, Mike, what you're saying is the Patriots still confuse people and keep everybody in limbo with the way they make their decisions. They're very calculated. The last time they moved up in the draft was 10 drafts ago with Chandler Jones, and they moved up 6 spots to take him. So that's not something traditionally that they do. Now, if there's a player that they really want at 15, I think he may fall to them if it's a quarterback. So if you look at all the positions they brought in as free agents, and then you look at not giving any quarterback a long-term deal, making them the franchise guy, I would say a guy like Lance, okay? How about a guy like that from North Dakota State, a guy that's versatile? Now, you talked about Josh McDaniels and what he said about Justin Fields. If you talk to any coordinator in the offensive side of the ball, the one thing that they say is really important right now at the quarterback position is versatility. He is a big quarterback that's strong, that has a big arm, that can move the pocket, that they can do a lot within their offense in the run game, the run-pass game, and he's accurate throwing the ball down the field. And there's no rush to put him on the field right away because you already have Cam Newton. The versatility is a big thing for these quarterbacks and especially for the Patriots. That's why they went out and got Cam Newton. The only thing suffered with that part of the game was the passing game. You won't have that problem with this kid. He can throw the ball in a lot of different places, and he's more accurate. And the number one thing to take a look at when you're talking about him, decision-making. That is super important in any Patriot system, whether you're on the defensive side or the offensive side, especially at the quarterback position.
Well, guys, the thing is at 15, it's such a solid position, right? But you're picking from a group of really solid guys at every position. But if you want that specific player, that QB perhaps, yeah, I think a move on up could be in the cards. But them not showing their hand, I'm shocked. Cowboys really like Patrick Surtain. Has anything changed on that front?
Not necessarily. Look, they would love either Patrick Surtain or they would love a guy like J.C. Horn. And both of those guys are the 2 top corners in the draft. Now, there has been some discussion that perhaps the Eagles might move up and take Patrick Surtain, so that would leave a guy like J.C. Horn on the board. A player out of South Carolina, I decided to get him on the phone about an hour ago and ask him about his involvement with the Cowboys. And as he described it, he said he's spoken to them 3 or 4 times. When I asked him who he's spoken with, he says he's spoken to everyone that would have a decision in this. In other words, Will McClay, Stephen Jones, Jerry Jones, as well as Dan Quinn and Mike McCarthy. As a result of his conversation with Jerry Jones, there wasn't a lot of conversation about football. Instead, it was about what he does off the field. And those hobbies include podcasts, Netflix, and video games. But it was the conversation with Dan Quinn that I thought was particularly meaningful. He said they talked a lot about what this defense is, what they're going to be looking for. And specifically, he says the thing about South Carolina is they run a very complex defense. Now, he played a lot of press man, but he's ready to do off-the-man coverage. But he said the verbiage is very similar. So I think that's something that's going to be very interesting to the Cowboys. Not to mention talent evaluators that I spoke to about Horn's game specifically describe him as being faster than Surtain, a little bit more fluid in his movements. Now, of course, there's all sorts of scenarios that could happen at 10, but if the Cowboys have their druthers, it's my understanding it's going to be one of these 2 corners, MJ.
Wow, all right. Definitely some direct insight there. Jane, a little later, QB you know very well, Dak Prescott, will be right here on the show. We're definitely going to ask him about the draft coming up. All right, Jane, thank you. Meanwhile, their NFC East rivals, the Eagles, are picking at the 12th spot. Stacey Dales is in Philly. Stacey, the Eagles have the most picks in the draft. So they do have the draft capital if they want. They can move up a little bit. Are you hearing anything about their draft plans?
MJ, I am hearing that they are absolutely pumped. Okay, they've got a new Coaching staff here, led by head coach Nick Sirianni, general manager Howie Roseman, the VP of player personnel Andy Weidel, are pumped because they say they're unified, they're synced, and they are ready for this draft. They vow that they're going to take best player available at 12. But they're willing to do anything. They're willing to sit there and get that best guy on their board if he's there. They're willing to actually jump back into the first. Remember, this first 10. Remember, they started at 6 and made the trade to 12 with Miami. So willing to jump back into the top 10, and then they're willing to move down. And if they go up, they get more capital, or they give up capital. If they go down, they're obviously going to give up a bit of capital, but they have the leverage to do so. What I would encourage everybody here to think about is, for as much as we talk about need at wide receiver, at cornerback, the skill positions, keep your eye on the defensive line. The last time this team drafted a defensive player in the first round was actually MJ 4 drafts ago, 2017. It was Derek Barnett from the defensive line in the first round. Fletcher Cox is fantastic. Brandon Graham is fantastic. They are not getting any younger. They might add to that defensive line at 12. We'll see.
I mean, Stacey, the Eagles definitely in a good spot. They have to make it count, though. I'm sure Sirianni also wants to put that stamp on his team. There are 11 draft picks. Yeah, that's a good way to start. All right, Stacey, thank you. Us here in the studio, we're going to do a little on-the-clock exercise presented by Safelite Auto Glass. Mark Ross lived that draft war room life. We know this very well, but we're going to role play a little bit here. The Total Access GM will be Mark Ross, as always. He's ready. Willie, JJ, Cynthia, you guys are going to be the scouts. Actually, Cynthia, you'll be giving us the sort of analytics purview there. Let's get this started. JJ and Cynthia, give your pitch for who the Eagles should take. And remember, the Total Access GM, he's got the final say. Cynthia?
Well, Mark, we need to take Patrick Surtain. Why? Because there are other wide receivers we can get later. They're going to be great next round. Go back more. But we can't give up a prospect like Surtain. You know why? Because you might talk about his speed and you might look at J.C. Horn, but the pursuit speed, as in once he locks in on who the receiver is, he actually clocked the fastest one this year in FBS. We can't miss this guy.
Okay. Here goes another Alabama fan at the quarterback position. I'm telling you right now, these Alabama corners do not plan out. Other than Marlon Humphreys, the last Pro Bowl corner is 1942. That's a long time ago. I'm staying away from him. You better listen to me, Mark. Now, Coach Nick was my receiver coach in San Diego. Yes, in San Diego at the time, not LA. He knows how crucial it is to have playmakers around your quarterback. We've seen Carson Wentz with no playmakers at the wide receiver position. Look very average. Don't do that to Jalen Hurts. Get some playmakers around him. You have draft capital. Go up and trade up and get a kid like Jalen Waddle in your offense that can do everything. Play in the inside, the outside. You can even put him back there to do some trickery stuff. Y'all can run the read option, whatever you want to run. This is the kid you got to get to help out Jalen Hurts and put him in your offense. You need playmakers to win ball games.
Okay, Mark, you've heard all the points here. Who are you going with?
JJ, not a shock you're fighting for the receiver there, but we just took Jalen Reagor in the first round last year with a similar skill set. We drafted 4 receivers in the last 2 drafts. We also have Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz. We're going to run a lot of 2 tight end sets there with our offense to help our quarterback, Jalen Hurts. And you're telling me we're going to get the best defensive player in the draft where we're picking now? We're going with Patrick Surtain. Cynthia, you nailed it just right. We can get a receiver later. We've loaded up in the past. We got to stop Dak Prescott and the Cowboys offense, and that's with the best corner, the best defensive player in the draft. You're talking about value and need, the perfect match right here at our pick.
Mark, weren't you the one that told me on the show yesterday that it is a deep DB draft class? You can get great DBs in the second and third round. Now you're going to trade up or go up and get one that high? Come on.
Third round.
JJ, just rock, paper, scissors with Cynthia, and then we'll work this out.
She's going to win that.
I said rock, paper, scissors. Come on, let's go. That's the Eagles' way.
I knew JJ wasn't just going to let him get that last word and not state his case. All right, we're going to the Steelers now. Willie, I know you're ready for your pitch, but I'm going to start with Cynthia here. Give our Total Access GM how the Steelers should go.
Okay, Mark. we need to figure out this O-line. Why? Because it's been a problem. And when you look to see what's going on here, Tevin Jenkins is the pick. Oklahoma State, he kind of matches, like, if you define a Steeler, what is he? Well, he's a guy who stops the pass rush. And you saw Ben have those quick passes last season. If we want to kind of get that deep passing game back in it, you know what we need? We need Tevin Jenkins.
Okay.
I like that, Cynthia. And that was one of my picks, but it wasn't my first because Tevin Jenkins can't throw the ball down the field. He can only protect the guy that's doing that in Ben, and Ben can't do it anymore. So what will help Ben in the short passing game? How about a powerful running game? Najee Harris out of Alabama. When's the last time the Pittsburgh Steelers last year ran the ball and was successful? They wasn't. They were dead last in the league at running the ball. When they rush the ball for 90 yards or more, they're 7-0. You want to help Ben out. You want to help this offense out and take some of the pressure off. Get a running back. That's what the Steel City is about, having big, strong, physical running backs controlling the trenches with average guys up front. Now, if you can't run the football and you're not throwing the ball deep, then you're going to be exactly what you were last year. You're going to be average, and we saw that. Once the running game was taken away, the ball wasn't going deep. The Steelers were just another Steelers, and the playoffs wasn't a factor, and this is not the Pittsburgh Steelers I'm used to seeing. Get a running back, Najee Harris. He will turn things around and open up things down the field for those receivers.
You get a running back in the second round.
I love that Cynthia's like
Not
sort
a
of
Najee Harris.
still subliminally doing things
Right.
there. All right, Mark,
You're not
who are
gonna
you
get
taking?
Najee.
Who's going on the draft card?
Willie, I love Najee Harris, the most versatile back, the best back in the draft, in my opinion. But the Steelers' run game, they couldn't run because they couldn't block anybody last year. Now you've lost Pouncey and Villanueva, and you're going to say we're going to ignore that? I got to go with Tevin Jenkins here. Cynthia, you're 2 for 2. I got to let Willie and JJ go off the staff and just let you make this decision. You're right, Cynthia. This guy just kind of epitomizes the Pittsburgh Steelers' tough, blue collar, like a bar bouncer in there just fighting guys. So this is the attitude we need to help out the run game and address that later. Plenty of empirical evidence that taking a running back in the first does not actually help the run game. It's getting the offensive line, getting the run back later. Cynthia, you got it.
I mean, no shock that
Wow.
Cynthia was 2 for 2 here. Mark, the GM, has
You are
spoken.
something else, Mark.
There he is.
Love you, Mark. Lick your wounds, JJ. It's all done. All right, everybody. Thank you. For all of you looking here, check this out. Devin White just sharing a little insight here to the incoming guys. Enjoy the draft process and don't let anyone's opinion affect your happiness. You put in a lot of work to get to this point in your career. Meyer aboard the USS Delbert gave his final pre-draft message.
I've probably pushed our staff more than most. I pushed myself to learn. Trent and I are in complete cooperation. And the amount of time spent in that darn cave, we can't screw this up. You get 5 in the first 65. It's a historic draft for Jacksonville, and we have to get this thing right. Jacksonville deserves that.
Earlier this month, Cowboys fans rejoiced after seeing their quarterback, Dak Prescott, on the field throwing. Dak is eyeing that comeback player of the year title following a season-ending ankle injury. And guess what? He is right here with us today. Dak, thank you so much for coming through. Willie and I, very excited to have you on the show today. We loved seeing you back on the field. Can you describe that feeling, what it was like to finally get out there and throwing again?
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on. And that's a feeling that's tough to put in words. Just not 6 months ago, you know what I mean, being caught off the field and knowing your season's done. And just spending the last few months throwing the ball from a chair, that to actually be out there using my own 2 feet and slinging it around felt good. But that was 2 weeks ago, and I'm well further than that now. So that's the exciting part.
Dak, all of us as players have been injured. I know what it feels like to be watching your team from the sideline. Congratulations on the generational contract. Okay, now, what comes with that? A lot of people see what Brady did with the Bucs. Ownership, equity, influence. Do you feel it's important as the quarterback now to have input and ownership and equity on what the team does and some of their decision making?
I mean, I feel like it's important just to have a feel and have a temperature of the team and a temperature of the organization. But to go out there and to think that all the decisions and everything is yours, I think that's pushing it. But I'm excited for the contract. Obviously, I'm excited for the future, to know I'm here in Dallas and to have my thoughts listened and heard out. Yeah, that's definitely important. But I'm gonna stay in my lane and and continue to lead my team on the field.
Hey, Dak, is it awkward driving around in a Brinks truck, or have you sort of adjusted to that? No, seriously, we're very, very happy to see you finally got paid there. Was there ever a moment, though, where you thought, dang, this might not get done?
No, there never was. In the whole process, I never listened to the controversy. Sorry, I never turned on the network and heard what y'all had to say about me. So I just controlled what I controlled, and it's great now just knowing the future. But the money has never been my motivation, or never been a reason that I've played this game.
Well, you should have turned on the network, because I was beating the table saying that you should get a monster contract, and you deserved it. Yeah, I had your back, believe me. Now, the draft is coming up, okay? So we talked about equity and input and all that, and your owner, Jerry Jones, said that he had visions of sugar plums in his head with the possibility of drafting Kyle Pitts to pair him with you. Do you have somebody in the draft that you would love to see be a Dallas Cowboy? And do you think you'll get a call from Steven or Jerry about, hey, we're thinking about this guy? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'll get that call, but there's not necessarily one guy that I've eyed in on and said, hey, I want us to draft this guy. But I know we're loaded on offense, and we've got a lot of weapons.
Right.
I'm excited just to get back out there and have CeeDee Lamb for a second year, get another go with Amari Cooper, MG, and obviously Zeke. So we're loaded on the offensive side, and honestly see this being a heavy defense.
Speaking about being loaded on the offensive side, before the injury, Dak, you were on record pace to almost throw for almost 6,000 yards. I mean, this offense was crazy.
Insane.
What's the upside? Like, how can you improve, and what can you guys do better as an offense in another full year for you in this in your team?
Yeah, we've got to go win games. All those numbers were pretty, but when I was hurt, I believe we were 2-2 or something, or 2-3 or something like that.
Right.
So it's about putting wins together, playing offense and defense together, playing complementary football, special teams as well, and just marking up wins. The stats are cool. The stats are great. That shows how explosive we can be, but we've got to play in hand with the defense and the teams and go win these games.
You know, Dak, I think something everyone's talking about is how excited they are to see how far along you are in your recovery.
Right.
I'm sure a big part of that is getting a good night's sleep. You know, I need 8 hours or I'm just not worth a thing. Your partnership with Sleep Number, tell us a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, I'm so fortunate for my partnership with Sleep Number. I started my third year into the NFL, was a game changer. It was my competitive edge. Saw a direct correlation to my sports performance. So from the bed, the app together, it allows me to track my sleep. It allows me to keep up with how I'm feeling the next day and to get immediate feedback of what my sleep had to say about that and how I can improve the next day. It gives you your score. So for right now, in the recovery process, it's important for me to just try to beat my score each and every day because I know my body's recovering the most when I'm sleeping. So very, very fortunate for Sleep Number and just to have that edge.
All right, Dak, since I was beating the table, man, I think my cut should be a bed. All right, so, hey, we at the network, man. Just send a couple of beds all the way down to the network.
We can make something work.
There you go. That's all I needed to hear. That's all I needed to hear.
Dak, before I let you go, any sort of timeline in your head of when we could possibly see you back on the field in a full practice?
No necessarily timeline on that. When I got hurt, that's something I didn't want to do. Is put a timeline on myself, but I know with the way I work and the way that I recover, as I said, that video was 2 weeks ago, and I'm already way past that. So I'm not putting 100% on myself. I could go play in a game right now and be successful, but I think here soon I'll be more than ready to go.
All right, must be that Sleep Number. It has to be, huh? All right, Dak, thank you so much. Always excited to see you. Can't wait to see you back out on the field.
Absolutely.
At the Cowboys next season. Have a great one.
You too. Thank you.
All right, Antonio Brown is heading back to Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. He agreed to a one-year deal that could be worth up to $6.25 million with incentives. As for some news and notes from around the league, a couple of expected roster moves around the NFL. The Giants picked up Saquon Barkley's fifth-year options. The Colts did the same for Quentin Nelson as the deadline to sign 2018 first-rounders to that fifth year approaches.
To me, and Smitty was on the speakerphone, don't effing move. And they're rumored to come up. They're not going to do it. It was amazing that it happened to us during a time where, what if we did? We would have given up something. What if we didn't? What if we held back and someone did, trade away and all of a sudden Matt wasn't with us again, I don't think Smitty and I would have served the years we did.
Scan the QR code on the screen right now for the latest episode of Total Access, The Locker Room. Like us and subscribe. New episodes every Wednesday and Friday on Apple and Spotify or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Locker Room Podcast, where they spill all the tea. All right, we've talked a lot about the top 10 picks, but we all know that's just the appetizer in this full course meal known as the NFL Draft. So, Mark, I'm going to start with you here. Give us a pick that we need to be watching.
MJ, I'm looking at the Chicago Bears at number 20. Ryan Pace and Nagy are a little bit on shaky ground right now. They've only brought back Andy Dalton to be their quarterback. So essentially you're going into a year where you have to win and you have to count on Andy Dalton. I just can't see how that's a comfortable situation for them. So I would look for them to maybe make a major move to get up into the top 10. They would have to definitely give up next year's first, second-round pick to get a quarterback and try to secure their own future, but also the future of the Chicago Bears. We know it didn't work out last time with the Mitchell Trubisky trade when they traded up one slot to get him, but they've got to do something. They can't go into the season next year with Andy Dalton, in my opinion, and think that they're going to compete for playoff spots, let alone a Super Bowl.
One team I'm looking at here is the 13th pick. That's the Los Angeles Chargers. Interestingly enough, they have some options here. They could go O-line with a Rashawn Slater, who has versatility to play tackle, or guard to really protect that investment they made at the quarterback position last year. Or also, they could look to defense. They need to replenish some people that they lost. So I'm looking at the top available edge rusher, which means they could maybe be a trade partner, maybe for the team that you just brought up, Mark, because they could take that edge rusher a little bit later. So that 13th pick, the versatility that they have there, gives them the opportunity to both take a great offensive lineman first or trade down, acquire some more picks, and then see what they can do on that defense.
Cynthia, definitely. I like the way you're thinking. And the Chargers are different than most of these teams up here where they have their franchise quarterback. They had a really good season. They should have had a better season. We know they really performed poorly at the end game situations last year, and they have a lot of talent. So definitely you got to help out Justin Herbert. And
they're just trying to make this team better and more competitive. And so I know the team trusts in them because they haven't led us astray yet.
All right, praise for Jimmy, but Kittle also talked up tight end Kyle Pitts on Good Morning Football. James Jones, are the 49ers making a mistake if they go quarterback at 3?
Well, we all been pumping up Kyle Pitts, but listen, hey, that is what you are supposed to do, all right? You are supposed to back your quarterback. He is on the roster right now. That is your teammate, whether it's a quarterback, a receiver, whatever. This is our guy in the building right now. This is the guy that's been throwing me the football, that got me paid a lot of money. I believe in this guy. You are supposed to back your quarterbacks. But I'm telling you right now, they are going to get a quarterback, and it is going to be Justin Fields. And when he gets in the building, you're going to be very happy, Kittle, because this offense is going to be much more dynamic. You are going to be able to catch many more footballs because of all the things you can do with this kid throwing you the football and getting outside the pocket and creating plays. But I love you backing your quarterback. But this kid will be putting on a 49ers uniform.
I mean, JJ, right now, April 28th, all Kittle did was state a fact. Jimmy G is, in fact, the 49ers QB today. The rest, though, as the song says, is still unwritten. All right. Thank you, my friend. So the Niners are the talk of the town right now. But in terms of draft capital, it's the Eagles with the most muscle there. Philly has 11 picks in the 2021 NFL Draft. The most there. A handful of other teams, including the Jags and Jets, right behind them with 10 each. The Seahawks, though, are on the other end of the spectrum. The least amount of selections. They only have 3. Willie, oof. Listen, it's an imperfect science, this draft stuff. Sometimes you can take a Jamarcus Russell, and other times you can be the 74 Steelers and draft 4 Hall of Famers at once. Which team really needs to hit it out of the park in this draft?
I think you said it, the team with the most draft capital, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. And the reason why, okay, a few years removed from the Super Bowl, the coaching staff is gone. Your number 2 pick overall, who you paid over $100 million, was benched, and now he's on a different team. The receivers that we talked about earlier in the show, okay, Rager started, but there's no production there. And the guys that aren't on the football field are injured, so they haven't helped the team at all. Then you look on the other side where there's a big need, the defensive backs. There's no defensive backs on the roster or in the lineup except for Maddox. So you really haven't drafted well at 2 positions. And if you count the linebacker position, it's been below or average. So you really haven't drafted in the skill position really well. Now, you have done really well with the O-line and the defensive line, but the most important part that you need to keep this offense and this defense going is on the back end and at the receiver position, and you haven't done a great job. So I would say the Philadelphia Eagles, when you talk about that city, the tradition, the history, it's Super Bowl or bust. They don't want mediocre. They don't want average. They don't want any of that. So you got to draft well now because everybody's fired. Nobody else is there. The GM is still there. You got to make the right decisions, and you got the most draft capital. So you can't blow it.
At all. And okay, you think 11 picks, right? You're sitting pretty. Even with all that,